In June, the dock was full every morning. Big bluegill just below the surface, easy to find. July came. Same dock, same bait, same time. But the big fish were gone. Only small ones left, circling in the shallows. Most anglers blame the season. They try different bait, they try different times. But the big bluegill did not leave the pond. They moved to a specific depth band. Old pondmen knew exactly which depth that was, and they fished it every July while everyone else was working the empty dock.
The instinct is to change the bait, or the time of day, or the spot entirely. But the dock is still the right address. That is the part most anglers miss. The big bluegill did not abandon the structure. They moved down within it. The same dock that held 10 big fish in June at 2 feet deep is holding 10 big fish in July at 8 feet deep. The structure is right. The depth is wrong. Every July, the same mistake repeats on the same docks, on the same ponds across the country. The fish are there. The angler is fishing 4 feet above them.
Bluegill are cold-blooded. Their body temperature matches the water. When surface water climbs past 80 degrees, big bluegill cannot maintain efficient metabolism in the shallows. They need cooler water. More importantly, they need oxygen. Warm water holds less dissolved oxygen than cold water. A big bluegill has a bigger metabolic demand than a small one. It needs more oxygen per hour just to survive. The shallow, warm surface water in July cannot supply that oxygen for a large fish. So the big fish move to where oxygen is adequate. They do not go to the bottom. They suspend at the depth where both temperature and oxygen meet their requirements. That depth is predictable, and it is not where most anglers are fishing.
Every pond in summer develops a thermal layer. The surface water warms under the sun. The deep water stays cold. Between them forms a transition zone, where temperature drops sharply within just a few feet. Below that zone, oxygen levels drop significantly. Fish cannot live there comfortably for long. Above it, the water is warm but oxygenated. The transition zone itself, where cold meets warm, is where conditions are best for a large, demanding fish. Big bluegill find it by instinct every summer. In July, every large bluegill in the pond is hovering just above it.
The big bluegill is not on the bottom. It is not near the surface. It is suspended at mid-depth, right above the thermocline, where water is still cool enough and still oxygen-rich enough. In a 10-foot pond in July, that might be 5 feet down. In a 15-foot pond, it might be 8 feet. The number changes by pond and by week, but the principle is fixed. The big fish are suspended at the depth where conditions are best. Not the bottom, not the surface. The narrow band between the two. This is where the big bluegill went. This is what the old pondmen knew. Small bluegill do not follow the same logic. They have lower metabolic demands. They tolerate warm, lower oxygen water better than large fish. In July, the shallow dock water that drove out the big fish is still acceptable to a 9-inch bluegill. So the small fish stay. The dock looks occupied. Lines go in, fish come up. Just small ones. The angler sees fish activity and assumes the location is right. It is right. The size class is wrong. What looks like a slow July bite is actually 2 separate populations at the same structure at different depths. Small fish at 2 feet, big fish at 7 feet. The angler fishing 2 feet wonders why July is slow. The man fishing 7 feet knows July is not slow at all.
This pattern repeats on a predictable schedule every year. Not because the pond changes, because the season does. June warms the surface. The thermocline forms. Big bluegill drop. Small bluegill stay. July looks slow. August looks slow. Then September comes. The surface cools. The thermocline breaks down. The big fish come back up. The dock explodes again in early fall. Same fish that vanished in July, now back in the shallows. Most anglers think fall bluegill are a different bite entirely. They are the same fish returning from the same depth they held all summer. The cycle is perfectly predictable. The only thing that changes is the depth the angler needs to fish. Old pondmen found the depth without electronics. The method was simple. A worm on a plain hook, no weight. Drop it over the side of the dock. Let it sink freely, counting the seconds. Watch the line. At the depth where suspended bluegill are holding, the line will twitch or stop falling naturally. A fish has intercepted it. Note the depth. That is the suspended zone today. It changes as the season progresses.
so they checked it every trip. A quick free drop before the first cast told them everything they needed to know about where the big fish were holding that morning. The dock itself is still the right piece of structure. Dock pilings extend from surface to bottom. They pass through every depth zone. Big bluegill use the pilings as a vertical reference. They suspend along the piling at exactly the depth they need. The angler who fishes 6 inches below the dock surface is fishing the top of a structure that extends 8 more feet down. Most of those 8 feet hold fish. The middle 3 feet of that range hold the biggest fish. The dock did not stop producing in July. The angler stopped fishing the right section of it. The productive depth also shifts through the day. In early morning, the surface has cooled overnight. The thermocline sits slightly deeper. Big bluegill can be found a foot or 2 shallower than they will be by noon. As the sun heats the surface through mid-morning, the thermocline rises. The big fish drop slightly to stay below the warming layer. By early afternoon, the thermocline is at its highest daily position, and the fish are at their deepest. A man who found the fish at 5 feet at 7 in the morning may need to fish 7 feet by 1 in the afternoon. The dock has not changed. The depth of the fish has. The dock is one example of the rule. It is not the only one. Every vertical structure in a pond works the same way. A submerged tree standing in 8 feet of water has its trunk passing through the thermocline zone. Big bluegill suspend along that trunk at the productive depth, exactly as they do along a dock piling. A brush pile on the pond floor has branches extending upward through different temperature zones. The fish hold at the branches that reach the right depth, not at the ones above or below it. Old pondmen who understood the depth rule did not limit themselves to the dock. They walked the whole pond in late morning, identifying every vertical structure, and they fished each one at the same depth they found productive at the dock. One depth, applied everywhere. The thermocline does not change because the structure changes. The depth is not fixed for the entire season. On a calm, cloudless July day, the thermocline is sharp and precisely defined. The productive zone is narrow, a foot or 2, well defined. On an overcast day, the sun is not heating the surface as hard. The thermocline sits a foot or 2 deeper than on a sunny day. The big fish are correspondingly shallower. On a windy day, surface mixing pushes the thermocline deeper still. The fish may be found 2 or 3 feet shallower than the calm day position. Old pondmen who relied on yesterday's depth number on a different kind of day came home frustrated. The ones who retested the depth on arrival, a quick free drop regardless of what worked last time, always found the fish. The depth from last Tuesday is a starting point, not a guarantee. The water tells you where the fish are today. Ask it every time. The practical sequence is 3 steps. First, find the depth. Drop a free worm over the dock edge and count to the first bite or natural pause. That is the zone. Second, rig for that depth. A small split shot set to suspend the bait precisely at the productive layer. Not deeper, not shallower, exactly there. Third, fish vertically. The big bluegill in July is not cruising the shallows. It is holding in one column of water at one specific depth. A vertical presentation at the correct depth produces. A cast across shallow water does not, even with identical bait. The result, when the depth is right, is immediate. The dock that produced nothing at 2 feet produces steadily at 7. The fish that seemed absent were holding there the entire time. One adjustment, depth only, nothing else, converts an empty July morning into the most consistent bluegill fishing of the year. The big fish at the thermocline zone are not spooked. They are not scattered. They're holding in one place, conserving energy. A bait at their exact depth requires almost no effort to take. They're the most catchable fish in the pond. They simply require the angler to come down to meet them. The dock is right, the bait is fine, the time of day is not the problem. In July, one variable determines whether big bluegill come up or not. That variable is depth. The fish that disappeared in July did not go far. They went down. Old pondmen who understood the depth shift never experienced the dead July dock that frustrates most bluegill anglers. They simply moved their bait down to where the fish moved. Same dock, same pond, same fish, 6 feet lower. Subscribe to Traditional Angling for more field-based fishing knowledge, the behavior behind the bite, explained by the water itself.